Constancy, a Cofion, for Mum and Dad on their 50th wedding anniversary, 28th of June 2019. Constancy, a Cofion was written to mark the occasion of my parents' 50th wedding anniversary and was performed at a party in Usk on the 28th of June 2019. Simple maths will tell us that they were married on this day in 1969, a year of marriage, a year of courage and farce, as I put it in the poem. My parents were born and raised in Blackwood, Cefn Forest, South Wales. Both fathers were miners and both mothers worked in shops in the valleys. My parents eventually moved out of Wales to train as teachers, first to Exeter and Leicester, and then to London and finally to Bristol, where they had 3 children, 2 girls and 1 boy, the last in line, me. Since retirement, they have moved to Caerphilly, 2 valleys away from where they were born and went to school. A Cofion is technically a Welsh memorial poem, but the word itself translates as memory. I don't use any of the technical features of Welsh metrical verse in this poem. I simply stole the word to use a little Welsh in a poem by a non-Welsh speaking but proud to be of Welsh blood person. I used one other Welsh word in the poem. The other influences of Wales are in the slightly Thomas-esque syntactical and rhythmical lilts and the subject matters. In the printed version of this poem, I have added some notes to the bottom of the poem to translate and provide references, some of the personal references for some of the details, and I outline these at the end of this reading. So this is a personal poem, and it was designed for the appreciation of a wide audience. So the age range of the people attending the event was 6 to 92. But I've tried to use these notes sparingly. So here's the poem. Constancy, a Cofion, for Mum and Dad on their 50th wedding anniversary, 20th of June 2019. Enseigner notre devoir sacré envers les jeunes. To teach is our sacred duty to the young. 1. With reliant perpetuity, 2 figures figure. Steadfast sentiment straddling a half-century, and still. There is movement and dynamism as legacy. There are births and deaths and struggles and shifts, but still they still with solid sentiment, with silted stability. Some graft and grit to pit against the churning world, a dual sense of singularity and insularity, to secure and insulate against the experiential sate of mid to late capitalism, this state of safe grace. I have overseen 4/5 span of this reign, in unknown infancy, as a green teen, in somewhat maturity. But not a twinkle in the eye was I for a productive decade, but 3rd in line, the best for last, the best in show, I know. Born out of key with Wales, Altudian exiles, but always familiar with it, we 3 were evacuees, babies boomed from the valleys, on the wagon trail of FE training into Bristol's middle classes. Teaching was a way out, a way to flout the opportunity drought. Teachers in and out of the classroom, we 3 received degrees in humility and appreciation, taught to cultivate the hard-won means to fight for the right to articulate against the firmly ossified ties of crass class, of firmly felt feudalism, leaning lifelong into labour. Born under Thatcher but refusing to match her atomised atavistic idiocy, her rabid privatised market world without society or human dignity, taught to thwart the taught selfishness of capital accumulation, without classroom milk but nurtured by the cliché of human kindness. With tenacity they measured, with voracity they leisured, 50 years of motion made still by love's devotion. 2. 1969, a year of marriage, a year of courage and farce. Buzz Aldrin's lunar module lands first while a Cold War cauldron boils on Earth. While the Manson family marauded, the Scooby Gang solved their first mystery. Big Bird sauntered yellow feathers on Sesame Street. Grouch had his first grouch. The internet was born and Lenin married Ono. And oh no for the Beatles, evicted, betrayed and kicked from the post-matrimonial sleep-in. The Stonewall riots erupt in New York, gay pride and equal rights to comprehend the conditions of a midnight cowboy's furtive nights. As Butch and Sundance make their last stand, Woodstock witnesses Hendrix's American anthem, a crooked satire of the arch-crook Nixon as thousands suffer the trauma and soon-to-be syndrome of Vietnam. In England, a circus of pythons called Monty silly walk onto the radio, and silently, numinously, a bird-like man affixes a lectern with a hawk's gaze and mounts the Swedish stage to become Sam Beckett, Nobel laureate. 3. And, of course, a young couple marry in their valley's finery, lambs dressed as buttoned-up beauties outside a prefab church. Here, outside, against the corrugated green backdrop, the family photos. Two brothers stand neatly corrugated like the church walls, suits pressed, wearing their wearers with perfect pocket squares. They smile with hair brushed black as their shiny shoes. Here, the blushing bashfulness of the bride and groom's grins lean into each other as if in private pride and joke. Family and friends arranged with white posies and poses of jokey ease and stiff appease to the camera's lenses. And two faces, with all and without, smiling and shining, with hands clasped around flowers and sweet gifts in proud pose of sisterhood, my all-white mam and my pink and perfect Auntie Cheryl. In close embrace before a casual, chipped brown bench, my father, tongue out and puckish, the silly sour to sister's sweet smiles. And now we crowd into the church where furtive eyes catch the lens eye. The first walk down the aisle, my mother's hands, my father's smile. The post-wedding food, Cheryl gleefully gulps a cake, Granny slurring her state. Behind the newlyweds are 60s stylings, a sacred shape of the hymnal, a backdrop of interminable internal corrugate, all offset Grandad's timeless hair. And outside again with youth, flanked by stolid, solid Valley's women, hard-working Nana and Granny with colour-coordinated handbags and hats, Grandad and Grandshire sturdily solemn in sombre suits, their buttonhole posies briefly elegant reliefs from hard graft. Sadly missed are many. Memento pictures are bittersweet, bitter to grieve but sweet to savour as memory. Lest not and never to forget, these pictures fondness begets. And finally, the photograph to which I always return, a couple diffident, defiant and defined in young love, a furtive mother, a future mother, elegant in 60s chic, nonchalantly clutching her shoes, a future father, enjoying the awkward elegance of waistcoat pockets, fingers resting in aristocratic affect, a strut to match the occasion's pluck. The camera captures this moment as both sets of eyes look down, as if they know the presence of the lens, the precious post to the future, as if anticipating our contemporary gazes and affixing a forever potent potential. They smile a symbiotic satisfaction to the brush and bristle of a sun-brown field. Draw a line from face to face, and there is synergy, sympathy, and knowledge. For this captured moment alone, we gather now to admire, to acknowledge. 4. Beckon the jump through eras to hear, believing in joy, in gains, in journeys, begin to join, to hold, a mere bargain to judge the half-century our homily. But will justice as hap, as jewel, care and assent, the armour, the funds? Can an amour, an affect unfool, careless convention time's assaults outgun? Courage they are, and age has gainsaid, constance and ardour by admirable inch, care and affection as ballast as stead. Caution not against this bravery, a cinch, careful and august, this belief and constancy, creative and artful, to bet, just see. 5. Au revoir. With reliant perpetuity, two figures figure. Steadfast sentiment straddling a half-century, and still. There is movement and dynamism as legacy. There are births and deaths and struggles and shifts, but still they still with solid sentiment, with silted stability. The sacred duty of teaching brought fraught times to knees. I saw devotion droop, the stoop to bureaucracy make breathless, the retirement sirens whooped before a heart-stressed disaster. To survive the strive to perfection, when the convection forces of the national curriculum, metrics and inspection rendered a beautiful sacred enterprise an exercise in number. Retirement came too late, but satin freedom they have. To travel, to read, to run, to walk, to till, to have fun, to instill a purpose to brood, an allotment of life to enfuse. Their retirement reanimates grace, grandparents who pick up the trace of dependent and steadfast devotion, of reliant and purposeful motion. From this humble and humbled mere poet, feel this love and know that you own it. So some notes. I was 39 years old by the time at the time I composed the poem. The second section was composed as I looked at my parents' wedding photographs, which were available to all at the event. Talking about prefab, Bethany Baptist Church in Blackwood is essentially a prefabricated shed, and it is still going strong, and my parents got married there. And in fact, when my father's father died, my grandfather, the funeral was also held in the church. Cheryl, my mother's sister was called Cheryl. She had Down syndrome and died 20 years ago at the impressive age of her mid-50s. When she was born in the 1950s, there was very little knowledge of the syndrome and a little understanding from medical staff, but fortunately her life got a lot better after that. Talking about the reference to Schleur. On my father's 21st birthday, his parents had given him £21. All this money went towards the wedding. According to family legend, my mother bought 6 bottles of a new soft drink called Schleur for the wedding and transported these bottles back from Leicester by hitchhiking in a lorry. Unfortunately, my mother dropped and smashed 2 bottles of this precious liquid while getting out of the lorry's cockpit. The many wedding guests had 4 bottles of Schleur to share between them. My granddad's timeless hair reference. My granddad lost his hair in his 20s, and under the pressure of his wife, he decided to wear a wig for the rest of his life, with gradual upgrades to grey-white. Timeless hair is not that funny, but it got a laugh from my family on the day. Yeah, we'll leave the notes there.